Hello, hello, good evening. Good evening. Duck is washed. This is the first comment I read. Jeez. Jeez Louise. Life is tough. No matter what you do, you get shit. How you guys doing? Everyone doing alright? Delta's in the chat. Hey Delta. Good day. Good day. The old duck FUD at the bottom? What do you mean? Do you think it's the bottom right now? I mean, could be. We can talk about it. Low time frames, kind of meh, to be quite honest. Generally, I mean, everything like Bitcoin's just been chopping. There's really not been any change, and altcoins just literally imploded. So, yeah. Hey Don, hope you're feeling better. Yeah, somewhat. I slept like 12 hours tonight. So today's the first day where I'm actually feeling somewhat alive. So I was like, okay, I can stream today. How do people not see that Bitcoin is going to 52K in a few days? I don't know. Yeah, we'll talk about that. I think we're gonna do like Bitcoin. We're gonna do ETH. We might do like Solana and a few altcoins, but nothing much. But yeah, before we start, big shout out to Woo for sponsoring the show. Really appreciate their support. Go check them out. The links are in the description. It's where I still have my trading challenge going, slowly but surely. The 100K to 1 million trading challenge, whatever. I think we're like 80% there now. So yeah, they're quite cool. Don, please talk about Doge. $0.1 is coming. Oh, we can talk about Doge, yeah. Okay, so let's run through the time frames real quick because it's been a while. Monthly hasn't changed. It's still struggling with 69K. There's nothing really there. The support is kind of shitty. The resistance is kind of shitty. Like that's just a shitty chart. If the support breaks, you would kind of think that would go for the next one. If the resistance breaks, you could kind of think we're going for like 80K-ish. On the weekly time frame, I've seen a lot of people like start being bearish this, and I actually don't think it's that bad of a chart, to be quite honest. Like you can draw a support here. That's kind of what I've been eyeing for a higher low, and as long as that holds, that just kind of looks okay. Let me turn it green. But also we really haven't had this kind of consolidation like in these kind of areas before, right? Like this is a new situation where we're dealing with an all-time high breakout that immediately stalls and then goes sideways for like months. Let me remove this from last stream. Yeah, this is a new one, and I think that has a bunch of people nervous. Also the fact that their altcoins are dying, right? Like when you think about it, like most people, I would even venture like so far that I would say like most people in this chat actually don't own that much Bitcoin, and they own altcoins instead. So whenever altcoins go down, right, sentiment starts flipping really, really bearish really fast, right? Because people are losing money, and when people are losing money, they get bearish. It's just how it is. And they project that bearishness on Bitcoin, always. Something that has always happened, something that will always happen, I think. And it's not necessarily how it is, right? So you shouldn't be getting carried away just because there's a bunch of altcoin weakness and think, fuck off. And think that that is indicative of the market, and that it has to do X. This just means altcoins are weak, and that's it. So yeah, Bitcoin weekly at support. It's not that bad. It could be much worse. If that support breaks, then it starts getting really bad though, because I think the 60K support is kind of shitty. So this one has to hold. And so if we go down towards 60K, I think that would break, and then we can wash out towards like 52, like the guy in the comment said earlier. So yeah, that's the weekly time frame. Like I said, it's not that bad. As long as 63, 64K holds, we have one resistance up ahead, and that's 69K. And then you can soundly argue that a breakout would be sizable, and that it would have to like go towards like 75, 80K at least. So the weekly time frame, the monthly is on the bull side. The weekly time frame is on the bull side. Where it starts getting a little bit dicey is on the daily time frame, right? So let me remove this. This is a weekly level. Doesn't need to be anywhere else. This is where it starts getting a little bit dicey, because we've kind of lost the range midpoint, no matter how you draw it, right? Like I've seen range midpoints being drawn like this, and I've had the range midpoint-ish here at 65.2, and that was close below yesterday. And today we've kind of had a little bit of fuckery going on with Sailor buying, like finishing his buying, and also apparently, supposedly the German government selling. So we've had like, I mean, people were like writing me how bullish it is that Sailor bought. I think that's a little bit dumb, because like when you know that Sailor is going to buy, once he's finished buying, that's a bearish event, right? Because he's going to push price up, at least in the short term, right? So people were like, oh yeah, Sailor bought, let's fucking go up to infinity. The moment I saw Sailor, like that he bought the announcement, I was like, okay, this is almost guaranteed to go down now, because the market was quite, like the market is trading quite illiquid, and it's trading quite sluggish. And if you have an illiquid, sluggish market that is pushed up by someone with size, that usually mean reverts, right? So I'm not surprised that that happened. I'm a little bit surprised that the Germany is selling news has not resulted in the market squeezing upwards a little bit, because what happens with those news is that, and we can look at it on the lower time frames in a sec, what happens with those news is that people just retard short. Like it goes down and they're like, oh yeah, this has to implode now, Germany's selling. And that usually leads to at least a squeeze. So far we haven't had any of that. It's just been not moving, right? The entire market has been terribly, terribly slow. Oh, what the fuck? Why Germany selling? Germany seized a bunch of coins from 2000, whatever, 14, I think, 15, something, like long time ago. And they started moving it to exchanges. And it's like, I don't know how much it was. I think 2 billion or 3, what they have. Like a couple thousand coins. 3 billion, yeah. So that's kind of been what's been making the price action today. Just looking at this daily time frame, this is actually one of the things that you really don't want to see, right? So, but to put it in context, like I said, the weekly and the monthly are still good. The problem is, like, I think this is actually quite the aggressively bearish chart on the daily time frame, right? And the reason for that is quite simple. Whether you take this as the mid-range and you had a retest, or whether you take this as a mid-range and you had like a fake breakout today that led to dumping, either way, we got rejected, right? We got rejected quite aggressively, and that's not good. It's especially not good given that this has just been slow bleeding. And when you have a slow bleed that tries to reverse and then get stuffed like this, that's not optimal. This is not what you want to see. So this is, I think, like the most bearish chart out of the 3 time frames. Like the other ones are decent. This one is quite bad. And if you want to be bullish, I think you want to see a close above 65.2. Like that's the minimum that I need to see to even consider like playing anything on the bullish side of things, right? And I could see myself do so, but I need a little bit of indication. Best case scenario, obviously, I think if we reclaim 67, at that point, like I think it's actually quite straightforward. Like if we reclaim both of these, this resistance is probably not going to do too much, and this one's not either. So we're in the situation where it makes sense to be bearish, I think, on the low time frames, as in on the daily. But there is an invalidation here that is quite close by, and I think above 67, you're going to see 70, and I mean that's probably not going to hold again. So that also means that if you want to be bearish, this is a decent spot to be, with basically the low time frames being your guide, right? So I think with everything that has happened, with the news and everything hitting, we really, like, if this is bearish, you really shouldn't go back above like 66, 66.2, whatever that area here, because that would make this whole thing into a false breakdown based on bad news, right? Like technically, I would say like the whole Germany selling thing, bad news, sailor buying, is not necessarily good news either. So we had bad news and price went down, right? And that's to be expected. But if the price completely engulfs that bad news candle, that is good. Like that's good news for price. And so like if you're bearish, I think it's a decent invalidation. It's actually not that far away considering what the move might lead to, right? So basically, when we go back on the daily time frame, you have like an invalidation above this wick somewhere here. I think with a soft invalidation with a close above 65.2. And then you have a target that is really, really far, right? And I mean, this is not the highest likelihood of playing out of a trade ever, right? But like the only trade that I can think of in these circumstances is basically you short somewhere here with a stop loss above the highs, and your target is the range low somewhere in here. And I think that's like somewhat okay likelihood wise. And I think it only gets worse, but not significantly if you're targeting 52K, right? So I think like I've been talking about the fact that I don't think 60K is going to hold again. There is obviously, just because I think it's not going to hold again doesn't mean it doesn't, like it will not hold. There's obviously still a chance. So if you're going short into 60K, there's a chance that you just give away your trade. But I think the chance is decently slim for the payout. So you kind of have like a setup here that is quite risk defined, very, very risky given, I mean, a 2% stop loss is insane in my opinion. Probably shouldn't take that. Could have like a stop loss up here, and just close if it closes above 65.3 as your stop loss, right? Like that kind of makes sense to me too. It's a very little loss for the gain. The problem with that setup is that, like I said, the weekly and the monthly are still decent. The trend's still up, and sentiment, I think, has flipped sufficiently bearish for this to squeeze. And that is because, like I said, altcoins have been completely giga-nuking, right? So you have this, like it's not as obvious as the altcoin trade was, like the whole meme implosion, everything that we talked about in last stream, which is like a month ago or something. Like that seemed pretty obvious. Now that, like I said, we have a bunch of people basically jumping on the short/bearish wagon, it's a little bit more risky to take these kind of trades. But it's a decent trade, just face value, just based on the fact that, like I said, got news, price nuked. If price climbs back up a wall of worry, so to speak, then I think there's a good chance that it actually just squeezes quite a bit higher. So yeah, do with that what you will. Me, I've traded quite actively in the last few weeks, and I've somewhat had enough. I'm still trading, but I was basically shorting everything left and right, and I've slowed that down a little now, and I'm not planning to go as aggressive again as I was, even if I take shorts. I mean, I generally don't like to short, so that's always temporary. Doge to zero. We'll talk about Doge. But yeah, that's that. Like I said, if the daily closes above 65.2, 65.3, I think there is a case to be made that this market is going to be super fucking choppy, and that you should be trading it. There's also a case to be made to be bullish, if you really want to. I think both of those work. Why are you perfectly happy to short the range highs on Bitcoin but unable to long the range lows? I mean, there's like, why was I perfectly happy to long down here and unable to short like 19, 20K? The reason is quite simple, because I mean, when you think that the market is like here, I thought the market was in a really good spot and really cheap, right? That's what I think at that point. So I'm quite able and willing to just bet on the upside. Now in this range up here, right? I know you can look at this in an empty chart. In this range up here, I think the market is quite, like, I think you're paying a lot for what you get. Because I mean, what the fuck are you actually getting? I think people have kind of figured out this cycle how we're trading a little bit of vapor everywhere. Not that Bitcoin is the same as every altcoin, but I think the sentiment has shifted quite substantially on that front, which is not necessarily a bad thing. And I think just generally it's just bound to happen with the altcoins and the grifting going on. But anyway, for me, 70K, that seems just face value quite expensive to me. Even 60K seems quite expensive to me. And it might be cheap, right, in the grand scheme of things. And the market might go up and be like, yeah, be just like, fuck it, we ball and we go to 150. But to me, I don't look at the market that way. I was quite happy buying 16K. I'm not that happy buying 70, even if it goes to 150, right? Like, I like to buy these discounted, like I like to look at discounted kind of things, and I don't necessarily like it when I get into something and I'm already like, fucking hell, I could be buying the top here. It's not my style, but doesn't mean it's bad. Just because something is not my style doesn't mean it's bad. I think there's a lot to be gained from buying something expensive and selling it more expensive. It's just not how it works. Hey Dawn, I saw a tweet that they're most likely manipulating the price because options expire on the 28th. What's your opinion on that? Whenever someone tells you that someone is manipulating price on a bigger asset because of options or because of anything else, you can be 99% sure that they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. You don't realize how fucking expensive it is to manipulate the price of a big asset. Like, it's just not, like, you cannot. Like, if the market wants to go up and you're manipulating it down in quote unquote, it's not how it's gonna, like, you're not gonna make any money. You're gonna lose a shitload. If you think back to the bear market, Saylor, quote unquote, was trying to manipulate the market in going up. Like, he was buying a shitload, and every time his buys cleared, the market would just teleport down, right? So you can hold the market up for a while. You can send the market down for a while, yes, but you cannot really manipulate it in a way. And it's always like, if you're betting on the wrong side, like if you're like, okay, let me push this down so I can buy it, like so it can go up later, whatever. If you're on the wrong side of this, you're always gonna lose money. So like, it's not how it works. Like, imagine, like, this is what people do. They're like, the market makers are selling us down so they can like make more money when it goes up, right? Like, it's like, imagine you're the guy, you have 100 Bitcoin, you sell like 50, like you giga bullish, you have 100 Bitcoin, just for like kind of to paint a picture. You sell 50 of those to make the price go down, and someone buys a bunch, like you're shit out of luck. Like you're gonna have to buy back. Like this is the one way to get squeezed. Like if you think the market is gonna go up, you're trying to manipulate it down, is the dumbest thing you can do. No one would, like no one sane would ever do it. And like, I don't think anyone like of these people that kind of claim this, like, oh yeah, they're trying to do like manipulate this and that. I don't think any of these people trade. Bullish, bearish on Bitcoin. The daily is bearish. The weekly and the monthly are bullish. And I mean, I think the bearish argument is nicer because the invalidation is cleaner. So I'd lean that way, but honestly, I'm not entirely sure. Like, and I'm saying this even though we broke support. Like, there's so much fuckery going on. Like, just looking at this daily, I should be giga bearish, right? It broke the mid-range, like this bearish chart. But just scrolling through the timeline and scrolling through the weekly, I'm not as sure. just not, like, especially given the weekly set support. Are you still macro bearish? Yeah, I kind of feel like it's more likely to go down than up. But I mean, I was super bearish because of the altcoins, and that turned out to be very right, and that just kind of like cleansed the space somewhat. So now I'm a little bit lost because I basically thought we're gonna be like the altcoins are gonna be at the prices they are right now. Like Solana's at 130, and we're gonna talk about that in a sec. But I thought Bitcoin was gonna be lower, right? Good thing I showed it the altcoins. On Bitcoin, I wouldn't have made much money. On the altcoins was actually quite nice. But yeah, so the answer to the question is like, I don't know. We'll see on the Bitcoin front. ETH kind of bleeding. It's a funny chart. I think you can make an argument for strong support at like 3.3K to like 3.1 to 3.3K ish down here. It's the same as on Bitcoin. You could try, like if you're really bullish, you could try and make the argument for this. And fair enough, but yeah, I like the lower support better. But generally, there's some movement there. It's finally a little bit stronger than Bitcoin. But ETHUSD, I don't think is too interesting. ETHBTC is the chart that is interesting. And that has been struggling for so long, and it's finally doing something, right? So we have this whole trend line here going up, test in 2019, 2021, and then we tested it in here once, twice, failed on the third test, retested it as resistance, got rejected, right? So that's kind of where we are with ETH. It's struggling, and it has had like a really good week, but it's kind of funny, like whenever ETH has a good week, it just has like 10 shit weeks afterwards. But so far it's holding support at least, right? So there's some support in here. It retested it, it's holding. On the ETH front, for this to be bullish, I think you would have to see it trade above the confluent resistance here. Like this is kind of shit spot to be in. Like this is why we got rejected here too. The diagonal resistance and the horizontal. But I think ETH itself is it's a much better bet than almost any other altcoin, because of the ETH ETF. Just makes sense for me to concentrate bets on that. And yeah, but right now sitting on support, but very, very sluggish. Resistance, like very good resistance, is confluent, quite directly above it. So you would need to have like a little bit of a strong move to the upside for this to finally reverse back into the old range and actually do something positive. I'm not entirely sure it's actually gonna do it, but like the price action for the news we have on ETH is shit. And that tells me like really shit. And that tells me that people are just not really interested in buying. And I wonder why that is, right? And that's been the case for the entire crypto sector. Like the S&P, like just straight up the S&P, look at that. Like that's been the S&P, and like we've been in this range here for the last 105 days. The S&P in the last 105 days has done, like went up, pulled back, and then made a new high quite aggressively. We've just kind of been eating dust. So like generally crypto's been underperforming, and like Bitcoin's been underperforming the S&P, and the altcoins have been underperforming Bitcoin. So like we've had market-wide weakness on this thing. I bought ETH at 3.8k. Am I gonna make it if I close my eyes for 6 months? Depending on whether this holds or not. Like if Bitcoin breaks down, and it is at the point where it needs to make up its mind, basically. Like this range is really old now. Like we are here, and I think this might be the last time that we're gonna be in this range testing these levels, right? Like you're either gonna break this, and then just run it up, basically do this, pull back a little, go. Or the other side of, the flip side of the coin, we're gonna actually just break down here, and then you're not gonna be fine. So either you're betting on the bull side or the bear side, but yeah, I think there's not gonna be too much longer where you can just sit in that position and be like, oh, it can go up or can go up or down, because it's gonna go up or it's gonna go down relatively soon. But we broke out before the S&P. I mean, dude, but look at this. Like, this is the prior all-time high in 2021, and this is the all-time high breakout right now. The S&P, this is the prior all-time high in 2021, and I mean, this is not even like, this is the fucking S&P, and it's up like 15% from the all-time high. This is Bitcoin, and from the all-time high, the previous all-time high, we're down like what, like 1% or 2%. Like that's not, like you cannot argue that there's weakness on the crypto side of things. You think it's just slices through 58? I think so. Like if it goes down, it doesn't have to go down though. Like I generally think it doesn't have to go down, but I think if it does go down, it's probably gonna just slice through everything. Yeah. You have any interest in buying ETH at any point? I've been trading ETH. I was long ETH, short Sol for the longest, time is a little bit much, but I basically took like pair trades. I've been shorting everything on the in the Sol ecosystem, and whenever I wanted to take risk off, I would long something in the ETH ecosystem, and that's been working really well. I planned on to keep doing that. But I'm getting tired of it. Like it's too, like there's a lot of brain power that needs to go into trading pairs, and I'm getting lazy now. But yeah, I think there is, like, I'm interested in trading ETHUSD. It's just like I look at this chart and I just don't know where. Like I'm struggling to find a setup there. Could that be because you're comparing an index fund to a speculative bubble that experienced industry collapse? It could be, yeah. But I mean, we also got an ETF this year. You'd expect that to, I mean, I think that's literally the only reason why we're even close to all-time high. I think without the ETF, we'd be trading at like 40K. Do you think NASDAQ has topped? I don't know. We can talk about the S&P and NASDAQ at the end of the show. If you remind me again. Anyway, like I said, ETH's a little bit of, like, it is at support, so if you want to bet on the ETH ratio, I mean, there you go. It's not the worst spot, but if that fails, I mean, oof. I still think even if that fails, it's going to be a better bet than other altcoins though. Solana is one of the most interesting ones. The last time we talked about this, I showed you guys a short setup that I liked, and it was this one. That was the short setup, and that worked quite well. I know for a fact that one of you guys linked me and tweeted at me and was like, I took it, which I'm quite happy for. But yeah, that short setup actually like looks quite nice now, and I still think like that's one of the better shorts that you can have, like ever have. Like that's an excellent short setup. It is at support though, and confluence support at that. I'll show you guys the Bitcoin chart in a sec. But the reason for that short setup, to run you guys quickly through it, I traded this, was basically just because I was like, just like in previous cycles, whenever you make these highs and then nuke, you always have like a complacency shoulder of sorts. And the moment we ran back into 170 resistance, which comes from here, I was like, this could be the complacency shoulder. Like if this market is gonna implode, it's gonna implode from here. And the stop loss was very tight, and you have a really, really far TP, right? Like as in like the risk to reward is quite great. And I was like, the chance of this playing out is not the best, but much greater than the risk to reward would indicate, right? So that's why I like the setup. I still like the setup. It's at support. I closed my my Solana trade basically around here, where it's trading right now, a little bit above actually, but not much, because it is at support and because I'm kind of tired of trading. That said, I still think like I could very well see myself kind of regret it. But I was like, okay, I've had enough. I'm still not 100% fully healthy. I don't want to slave away in front of the chart too much, because this I had to actively manage, because the liquidity on Solana is not the same as it is on Bitcoin or on other coins. So you kind of have to be there at least somewhat. But yeah, it ran into support. It's the second test. We could be here, right? And I think if the market goes down, you're gonna see a massive unwind on the Solana front, and I think that would take it to 100-ish. But yeah, there you go. Someone's just writing weird fucking shit in the chat. Can you check Doge-Duck? Yeah, I will do it in a sec. Any interest in buying Sol at 100? So when I was short Sol, my plan was basically closing at 100, waiting for the bounce, and then shorting again, targeting 70. So basically, like I shorted here, and I wanted to TP here, reshort here somewhere on the bounce, and then target 70 and close the short and never look back. That was the plan. I think it's still like that is still the most likely outcome of this thing, just given how it looks. And I might jump back in, take that trade like a little bit further. But like I said, right now I want to chill a little bit. But that would be like that. If I wanted to buy Solana, just generally, I would buy it at 70. But for me, like these levels, even 100, I wouldn't want to buy. It's more so that I would close to get a better entry higher up again. When you say implode, do you mean pack it up, see you in 2 years? I mean, if Bitcoin breaks down, yeah. I think if Bitcoin breaks down here, this range, then yeah, you can come back in 2 years. Like, and then like these altcoins are gonna basically finish their cycle-ish. So yeah. A lot of things are riding on this range, I think, and people are underestimating the consequences of this breaking down or up. I think if this range broke down, and if the S&P like doesn't continue to just go to infinity, I think there's a good chance that you would have a choppy / bear market for like at least short-term bear market. Doesn't mean new lows, doesn't mean we have to go below 40, but just like if this broke down, right? Like let's say Bitcoin breaks down and goes somewhere here, maybe breaks down again, you could be looking at 2025, 2026 for the next kind of attempt at all-time highs. So it's not the end of the cycle per se, but I think like technically, I mean, for example, like ignoring the COVID crash here, right? Like cut this off because this is just bullshit price action. Excuse me. So, I mean, you had a high here, right? We ran up, you had a high here, and then it took fucking 500 days for it to go back up. And I think if we break down on Bitcoin, you could be here, and then you break down, you bounce, you break down, like you range, which would basically just like if you look at the current price action, like if this broke down and then bounced and then kind of went down, went in a range, walked back up, ignoring the COVID crash, like that could easily happen, I think. Wouldn't surprise me one bit. And yeah, then the altcoins would suffer, and that's why I'm saying the Solana short I think is quite attractive. And the reason why I think Solana in particular is attractive is because a bunch of people were trading Solana meme coins, and that's been dying out. I've had people try to argue me over this, but volumes are down, interest is down, and now you have a bunch of basically desperate holders on the Solana front, and they're trading their meme coins, and once they capitulate on those, they convert back into Solana and then back into USD or Bitcoin or whatever. So you have a little bit of just a drain, like the market drains itself. You have a bunch of that in Solana. You have it very, like comparatively very little in other ecosystems. Don, I appreciate you giving thoughts, but you're insane when not in position. You see consolidation at highs and say it's over until 2026. I didn't say it was over till 2026. I said if this range breaks down, you have to expect it to take a long time. And if this range breaks down, then it might be over till 2026. But what does over even mean? Like, I'm not saying like, hey, this is gonna make new lows. I'm saying like a pullback to 50, pullback maybe to 40 before new highs. Wouldn't be unprecedented, wouldn't be anything crazy. We've had 40% pullbacks all the time. I don't think it's crazy. If this range doesn't break down, then obviously you're not gonna get it. That's why I'm saying if the range breaks down, then because at the end of the day, this is a couple months long range. And if that breaks down, I said the same thing when we were trading at lows. I was like, hey, we've been ranging here for a long time. This entire consolidation, you're gonna have a little bit of a lengthy up move. And I'm saying like if this consolidation breaks to the downside here, you're gonna have a lengthy down move. Don still shorting some positions, Sol and what? No, I closed Solana. I pretty much closed everything on the altcoin front. I'm concentrating on Bitcoin now. Just to get that right, I want to see if I can get into a short position on Bitcoin, or if short positions will be invalidated, which would make me maybe even buy it. So that's kind of the plan right now. But I have been actively trading the altcoins. It's just I'm tired of it now. Like trading altcoins takes 10 times as much out of me as Bitcoin does, especially on the short side of things, because like I said, I have to babysit. Like on Bitcoin, I'm like, whatever, if this slips, I'm not gonna slip like 10% on the market. I'm gonna slip like low percentage wise in comparison if I'm wrong. And it's not gonna cause any troubles, whatever. So that's why it's chill, like more chill, even if I think there's more profits to be made on the altcoin front. So you're leaning on the side of no new highs until 2025. I think it's not necessarily what I'm saying, because if we invalidate the bearish side of things, we could have new highs like in a week or two, right? So if the market moves up and shows some strength above 66, 67, and that is very, very close, I think there's a good chance that we'll be trading new highs in a month or two from now. I'm just saying, like, you look at this range right now, it's at least on daily, it's bearish. And if that bearishness plays out, we're kind of at this point of no return, right? You either break down and you don't return, or you break up and then you don't return. So I'm not saying like, hey, we never, no new highs next month or the one after, or like no new highs for the next 2 years. It's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying like, hey, we're in a spot where the market needs to make up its mind, and it's going to happen soon. And if it breaks down, you should probably get the fuck out of the way, because this is going to teleport down. If it breaks up, same story. How do all these tards not understand if-then statements? Oh, I read a 4chan post. I don't know if it's actually accurate, but basically if your IQ is below 90, you can like physically not understand then like problems. Basically, like, it's just impossible for them to understand it. Now, I don't know if this is accurate or not, but it made me giggle, because that, like, I legit think there's a bunch of people that are just incapable of thinking in eventualities, right? Like, what happens when this happens? What if it doesn't happen? All this kind of stuff. But it is quite funny, because like, this is the one thing that people always lose their minds over. Like, I mean, this is the most important thing in trading, right? Like, you have to think about, if this happens, what then? And if it doesn't happen, like, just because you're thinking about like, if this happens then, doesn't mean it has to happen. And it doesn't mean you have to necessarily trade in a way that would align with that. It's just basically, I'm like, if this range breaks down, then I should be short biased and like basically bet on the market going down. If it breaks up, the opposite. It's quite simple. Would more sideways here be more bullish or bearish for you? I'm kind of going back and forth with this, but right now I think it's actually bearish. But this is like a hard argument to make. I think there's really good reasons for both. Basically, the reason why I think it's bearish is because altcoins are draining a shitload of money out of this market. And with every day that goes by, you have new emissions on the altcoin front. You have basically a bunch of selling, not only on the big ones like ETH, but also on the smaller ones. Solana is like a shitload every day that goes on where there's no new buyers on Solana. This shit just bleeds, right? Like, there's so much basically new supply coming into the altcoin market, and with how things have gone, there's not been really new buyers on the altcoin front, which just means that you don't really need that much selling. Like, all the backholders can backhold, but all this new issuance is just like causes the market to keep going down. Like, you just need to sell like every day, like a coin sells like 10 to 100K on the market. If there's no new buyers, that can take like a huge market cap down to nothing in very, very quickly. So I think like the longer this goes, at least on the altcoin front, the more bleeding you're gonna see. On the Bitcoin side of things, we do have an ETF, and the S&P's been just completely and utterly like going up, like just been on a tear. So you have some positive flows there just based on that, which might make it different. But I think the altcoin side of things is too aggressive to kind of carry that over. So the longer this takes, the worse it gets. But I think both arguments are quite fine. Like, on the Bitcoin front, you could also be like, hey, the ETF is just gonna keep on sucking up supply, and I mean, it's a bullish range until proven otherwise, all that kind of shit. I think you can make both arguments, but on the altcoin front, I don't think you can. The longer this goes on, the worse for altcoins it will be, and it's what we've been seeing, right? None of this info on altcoins is new though. People have been talking about predatory unlocks for months. Yeah, the altcoin side of things is interesting because basically when you have inflows, right? Like when you have people buying this shit, doesn't really matter too much. It's just when it stops. And when I called the meme apocalypse, right? Because it was like, there is just no greater fool left to kind of buy this shit. That was basically the thesis. Like you have a bunch of people that rush in and they ignore this this overhang because they don't give a fuck. Like when prices go up, no one cares. But the moment it flips, the moment momentum slows down, that overhang does matter. And the momentum slowed down. So just look at Solana. Like this is a very, very bad looking chart. And that can change again, right? It just needs to move up. But that's why in crypto, like things move so much, because when it goes up, the negatives get completely ignored and forgotten about and even memed about. And then obviously they don't disappear. Like all of that doesn't disappear. It just kind of like gets put on the back burner. And the moment that momentum disappears, you just get dumped on. And then it really, really matters. So that's where we are right now. Many coins have been through a full market cycle already. Yeah, like it's fucking wild. We look at the popular ones, right? But if you look at the not so popular ones, they full retraced. But yeah, Solana BTC at support, 5th test or something, depending on how you draw it. 4th test, if you draw it like this, of the same support. That's shit. That kind of looks like it's gonna break down to me. And there's really no support lower. So like you have confluent support here on both pairs, the Bitcoin pair and the USD pair. 135 on the USD, whatever the fuck this is on the Bitcoin pair. But they've been stressed. Both of them have been, and are in danger of breaking down. I don't really care about the head and shoulders too much, but if you're a pattern guy, you have a head and shoulders here. If you like market cycles, you technically have a high and a complacency shoulder here. Like this, it's a beautiful setup on both of those. We'll see if it plays out or not. I could see myself like be really upset at myself for like closing my 170 short at 135 ish, because this looks like shit still. Altcoins generally don't look so good. Bitcoin still looks decent. With one of the ones I've been shorting quite aggressively, so looks garbage. Like it's just fucking terrible. You have a range, you had a false breakout here, you had a false breakout here too, but here a massive one with lower high, and then just fucking teleported. The moment it came back into range, this was toast. Good thing for me, and the reason why I got a whiff position in the first place was because of my thesis that everything Sol is gonna do poorly. So basically what I did, I was like, I'm betting against Sol, but I could see the market move up. I took a Pepe long and a whiff short, and basically tried to kind of like bet on the ETH ecosystem, and then I was like, I'm making money on this and it's great, but I feel like Pepe is just underperforming, so I just closed the Pepe side of things and then made it directional, right? But yeah, I still think like disregarding like whether the market is gonna go up or not, I think WIF is gonna underperform Pepe. So those kind of trades, like everything Sol ETH, I think is gonna, like everything on the Sol side is gonna underperform, which is just makes these trades really, really attractive, right? So for example, this one, you still have like, you basically have no meme exposure by being long one and being short the other one. And then you have like moves of this magnitude, right? Like this is a 30% move on a relative basis, which is quite nice. And I think that's gonna continue to go. quite nicely. But yeah, basically how I got with exposure is by taking on that trade and then closing the Pepe side of things because it was just not doing what I wanted it to. But yeah, with below the range, as long as it's trading below the range, assume 0 basically. The moment it comes back into the range, do whatever the fuck you want. Like, right? Like I think at 2.23, if you want to be bullish with, you can be bullish with. Fair enough, decent setup at that point. But anything below here is just very bearish, and then there's no real support lower. So I wouldn't want to bet on anything. And someone keeps asking about Doge, so I'll talk about that. That retested support, it's just like I really dislike this chart. It ran to resistance, retested support, and it's been doing fuck all since. And you know me, like I hate these kind of support retests when it hangs around. So for me, on the Doge side of things, I will not trade this. I am down to trade it. The moment it goes back above the high, I might just breakout trade it from 0.25 to $1 because I think at that point that could happen. But right now, like just looking at this, I don't like it. Could go up, could go down. I really don't want to trade it. Do you have any price targets for ETH and Sol this cycle? I mean, my Sol price target is $70. I don't think that's what you wanted to hear. No, I just looking at this thing, like Solana just looks like the cycle's done. And I could be saying this, like it is at confluence support, but I mean, target for Solana for the cycle, I mean, it's lower, not higher. But if it goes back above 170, I think at that point you target much higher. Like if it goes back to 170, I think you can target like 300. I think that's fine. But like just looking at this thing, I don't know, dude. I wouldn't want to make predictions. And I don't have to. It's a good thing, right? And with ETH, I don't know. Like I'm struggling with this chart. So Sol memes, no hope even if Bitcoin gigamoons. No, if Bitcoin goes up, I think Solana memes, like memes are gonna go up as well. I think they're just gonna go up less than the ETH memes. So for example, Pepe, like look at this. Pepe is holding bullish market structure, a bullish breakout right now, right? So basically this is the old range. It broke out, it's still chilling above it. With broke the range. Like there's clear weakness on one and clear strength on the other. So why would I be trading with if I can trade Pepe? But yeah, I mean, if Bitcoin goes up, right? Like if Bitcoin breaks up here and I look at Solana and I'm like, oh, it's at confluence support, whatever. It has to go up. Then I'm just kind of like, I mean, fair enough. Like Bitcoin goes up, Solana's probably going to go up as well. But just looking at this chart, like I don't see the point. Like I'm always gonna, like, I think the next part of the cycle, if the cycle isn't over yet, is going to be ETH focused rather than Solana focused. So you're not going to see me trade Solana on the long side of things. Because I think ETH's just a much more obvious play. If you guys remember back when we got the Bitcoin ETF and I was like, hey, I mean, just don't listen to these idiots peddling you ETH because we're getting a Bitcoin ETF. Why the fuck would you buy anything else other than Bitcoin, right? And obviously, like, I mean, there was other things to buy like memes and whatever, but just from the big coins, right? There was no reason to buy anything else because Bitcoin got an ETF, like fucking Bitcoin's gonna go up. And people were like, oh, it's not how it's gonna go, whatever, blah, blah, blah. It's exactly how it went, right? Bitcoin went up a shitload, ETH didn't. I think it's the same with the ETH ETF. Like if the market turns around, you're gonna have good price action on ETH, and the other things might also have decent, like they might also go up, but I think they're gonna go up less than ETH. And there's obviously gonna be exceptions, and there's obviously gonna be a few things that will go up higher. But just from the big coins, I think it was Bitcoin because of the ETF. It's gonna be ETH because of the ETF, and then in 3 years, maybe you're gonna get a Sol ETF, and then you can bet on the Sol ETF. What if Sol ETF is next? I think that's gonna be like at the earliest in a year. And as you can see with ETH price action, ETH's been shit, even though we're like a week away from an ETH ETF. So like betting on these things early is not necessarily the smartest way to go. Do you think the usual market dynamics are broken with the ETFs? It's a little bit different, yeah. Like the market's trading differently. With how high Bitcoin is right now, back in the day, you would have much more altcoin action. But right now, like all the positive flows are from TradFi, like out of the crypto ecosystem, from what I can see anyway. And people are not really interested in the altcoins. I haven't been around long enough, but is there a way that ETHUSD can go up while everything else goes down with the ETF? Yeah, we on the tail end of the last cycle, look, so Bitcoin top tier on the 8th of November 2021. You go to ETH, and then also topped on the 8th of November, right? But when you go to ETH BTC, you have here, look. You have this move still. So you had some outperformance on the ETH side of things. And that actually like quite substantially, so like that's 20% move. So like this was considerably stronger on this side of things. And I actually still remember I bought some NFTs on a dip, and the market completely melted down, and I actually still made money in USD just because the NFT went up in ETH, and ETH bounced substantially better than Bitcoin did. So, but yeah, I don't see a reason to be bearish ETH. Like if you want to be bearish something, I mean Solana fits the bill. Like that just looks like shit in comparison to ETH, right? In my opinion anyway. Like there's a better spot to be bearish. But yeah, I don't like, back to Doge, I don't like it. Could go up, but looking at this, like, nah, not for me. I don't know. I feel like after June, old season's coming on shitcoins. Possible, but for that you would need to have a little bit of Bitcoin movement. I think generally, if Bitcoin moves up, you can have fire go back into these altcoins. But right now, it's not really been doing that. So if Bitcoin goes up, should we be watching ETH? Yes, I think so. It's just really hard to find good setups in ETH. It's been beyond choppy. But yeah, and basically the one trade that I'm quite confident in and have been, I mean, it's like I booked a shitload of profit on this already, has been like Solana weakness compared to ETH strength. And that's been excellent. I mean, the market literally didn't move, and I backed a trade like down 20%. That's quite significant considering how I mean, it's not super liquid, but how liquid this is. Because I mean, if Bitcoin had a 20% move, right, like people don't realize, like Solana moving 20% on that lower high, if Bitcoin moved 20%, that would be like 50, like from here that would be 52. And we just got that on Solana in the last couple of weeks, and Bitcoin didn't move. Is there a target on Sol ETH chart where you would rotate back to Sol? Oh, it's so far away though. down here maybe, like when it's down 60-70% against ETH. I don't fucking know though. Like, don't quote me on this. I think this is like the logic makes no sense for me on the Solana trade. Like, it does the same thing ETH does. People are like, oh yeah, it's better, it's quicker, whatever. Yeah, fair enough. But the thing that people used it for just died out completely, right? So if anything, that should be a drag, not something that pushes it along. So I mean, yes, it's easier to use. Yes, it's like faster, whatever. There's obvious kind of like, and this is an argument people always have, like the people are like, oh yeah, this coin is faster, this coin is whatever, but it's always like you can make the fastest coin if you just don't make it decentralized at all. Like it's gonna be 1,000,000 times faster than I mean, that's the whole point, you know. And people always kind of make these arguments. And fair enough, right? Like during bull markets, you fucking want to use something that actually works. During bear markets, really doesn't matter. And during pullbacks, also doesn't matter. Like, yeah, it's just how it is. So that's kind of my opinion on this thing, but I don't want to impact anyone's other like opinion on this because it's not a technical one, and I'm not an expert on the blockchain side of things. I'm just decent at trading. So there you go. That's that. I think that's enough for today. There's been good trading. Like it's been really nice, and I think it's gonna continue to be good. Like I said, on the Solana front, if you're a Solana bull, right? Like I think 100, like 100 to 112, somewhere in there, is gonna be interesting. Like if you're like, Don is an idiot for thinking that the cycle's over. I think if you get a capitulation on this, that would be where it goes, and then you can just fucking long it from there and hope that it just runs back up. And if it does, I mean, that would be an excellent trade. And then you have the lows tagged. I think like 112 to 103, somewhere in there, would be a nice buy. For me, it would be a TP, because I don't think buying Solana makes much sense if I can buy ETH. But yeah, hope that helps. Big shout out to Wu for sponsoring the show. Go check them out. The links are in the description. I'll try to be around more. I'm getting more and more healthy as things go, so it should be possible. And Cred and I will do Casual Friday tomorrow, so you'll get a piece of content. Much love. Till then, bye bye.